Hello, everybody. Welcome to Creatacast with your host, David Welch. Today's video and today's podcast is about reinventing yourself as a creative artist. Sometimes we get so used to our old method of writing that we don't really see other pathways that we can take, other avenues that we can delve into until we branch out and try something new. I've been kind of hidden away from the podcast world and the creative writing aspect world for a little bit, and it's been actually kind of refreshing. I've been doing a different type of journalism. Wrote an article for these young lads from the UK who came in and went to Alliance Gym in San Diego. Hold on a second, guys. A lot better. So these guys, these young kids from Liverpool who came in and really got some good training in with some elite level fighters, and it was really awesome to see. And they got to spend time with UFC fighters Dominic Cruz, Bellator fighters Phil Davis, UFC fighter Jeremy Stevens, Combate Americas fighter Paulina Granados, and it was just amazing. It was really cool to see these kids, 16 to 18, just getting after it, like, and training with the best in the world, training with high level elite guys from Latin America, from America, from all over, and it was just really refreshing to see the grit that these kids have, and to be part of that journey, to be the photojournalist documenting their time here, and to write up about a 1,500 word article that I'm going to send to them here shortly. I have to run some edits through, but after I get done with the article and I send it to them, I'm going to be very satisfied with my work. And sometimes you need to get lost in a different type of story, a real story, in order to expose maybe some flaws in your creative aspect. And it was really refreshing to attack a different level of writing, a different level of my creative genius, which was, how well can I capture these guys in action? I got literally probably 800,000 photos of their training session, and out of those, I've had to, comb through and choose a select few to really be part of the article. And I did. And I grabbed a picture of each one of the lads. There's about 6 kids, and they trained marvelously. They were just titans in the room. They made the room glow with their presence, and like I said, it was very refreshing to see. And as a journalist, you really want to hone in on sometimes a really good story. Sometimes the world needs a really good story. And if you're a creative writer and you do poetry and you do screenwriting and you do fiction writing and short story, it was really cool latching on to how these guys speak, their accent, their banter was a little bit different than everybody's, and it was just a different level of kinship and understanding, and I welcome it. Like, and even the South American guys were amazing. Like Tonga, Gaston, he was a brilliant guy. He fights in the UFC, I believe, or I can't remember what organization. No, Combate Americas. So Tonga fights in Combate Americas, and he's probably one of the most tactful, wonderful people you've ever met. He's super intelligent, and he gravitated towards teaching the youth. Phil Davis had a ball in there. You could just see it every day. He loved coming to the gym and training with those cats, and letting them showcase their skills. And for Dominic Cruz to go rounds with these guys and really put that test on them, I mean, of course he's got a shoulder injury. He's not really like putting it on him. He's not really beating the tar out of these kids. But to really showcase kind of high level of moving around, high level of footwork, and that elevates their game. They're going to go to the world. They're going to Worlds. There's two of the lads that are going to go to Worlds in Italy, in Rome, and I have the strongest feeling they're gonna place very high. They're going to do very well in the tournament. And it was just really, like I said, refreshing as a journalist and somebody who has a keen eye for a good story to gravitate and latch onto. As a creative writer, it really broadens your game to the level of humanity that you can bring to your story. Here's what I mean. Whether you're a poet, whether you're a screenwriter, sometimes there's these international exchanges that happen that don't often get reiterated in fiction, that don't often get reiterated in poetry and screenwriting. And you get a little bit of that depending on the type of story, but you don't really see it often. You see kind of local, kind of, very specific stories that have that. But if you are learning to creative write and to be that dynamic in your writing, try that. Try a little bit of journalism. That's, a lot of the best writers in the world were journalists. Mark Twain. You had guys like Charles Dickens, who were just fantastic journalists. Yeah, they got paid per word, so they had to be verbose. Now, I'm not saying extrapolate every detail, but what I am saying is it allowed them to hone their craft and become better fiction writers and better creative artists by latching onto real life stories and observing what they could. And some of the best writing is genre fiction, where you capture a snapshot in time that's relevant to the community at the time. And sometimes everybody wants that story that transcends time, and it may not be the exact technology and the language that transcends time. What will happen between people and the chemistry between people and the dynamic in the story will transcend time. So if you're looking to transcend time, and this is something that's been huge in California for a long time, where people see the land of opportunity, America, travel all the way from across the ocean to be here and then really make a go of it. You have figures in history like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who had nothing when he came over here. All the guys from the bodybuilding world fucking gave him food, gave him furniture, helped him out. They're like, yeah, hey, you need help, we got you. You're such a mountain of influence and energy, like we feel obligated to. So it was really good to be a part of that experience. So also in the creative aspect of my life, I've really spent a lot of time just focused on other things. With my kids not being home right now, I really wanted to delve into a little bit more reading, watching Netflix. I'm powering through Sabrina, which is actually a really good show on Netflix. I didn't really want to give it the time of day because I was like, it's like a young adult series, or it's, I made a lot of presumptions about that I really shouldn't have. My twin brother's like, dude, you're out your damn mind if you're not watching that show. And I'm like, really? He's like, dude, it kicks ass. I'm on season 3. And I'm like, shit, there's 3 seasons? He's like, yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I dove right into it, and I don't regret that one bit. And then last night I watched another of the animated Batman films, the DC film, the Mutants and Mechs one, or Mutants and Machines. Either way, I thought it was a pretty decent story. I liked the fact that they kind of held to familiar tropes, like they refer to Batman as detective, because he really is. DC Comics is detective comics. He's solving these mysteries, these crimes as a detective, but he's like an off-the-books detective who has billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it was really cool to integrate the Flash and Oliver Queen and and other characters into that story, which is a wonderful crossover you'd love to see in live action, but you don't really get to see it. The Justice League was pretty badass. I love that. I love how they're starting to do that with films, but it's something that they didn't do, I'd say, prior to 10 years ago. You really didn't see it. It was really the Avengers and X-Men that really kicked off that intermingling of characters and universe. Start off with Iron Man, and you got so many different characters that they're bringing into the fold. But I've also seen good authors bring whole worlds together, and it's awesome. I've seen authors that really create and unfold their own universe on us, and it's amazing. You got Maze Runner was really awesome, dystopian type future. You have different fantasies out there that are doing pretty good. It's hard to narrow down like which ones are really on fire right now, because I'm behind in my reading. I really haven't been on top of my reading as much as, let's say, when I was in the Navy. When I was in the Navy, I was reading 80 books a deployment. You couldn't have stopped me from reading. I had a book in my back pocket everywhere I went. And I was really, really into historical fiction at that time. I was hunting everything down historical fiction. Simon Scarrow, Michael Curtis Ford, Connor Golden. I mean, so many, Stephen Pressfield. I was hunting down everybody. I was like, oh God, I couldn't get enough. I had to read about these ancient heroes, these characters, and they were so dynamic. And the British authors really kicked ass when it came to representing antiquity and having a good grasp of presenting historical accounts in a fictionalized way, and it was really cool. So there are texts and real life accounts from real people who lived at that time, who give you these stories, and then these scholarly writers will research those, will look at the actual text and extrapolate the story, and integrate the conversations and integrate the battles, and give you visuals and details that you can only imagine were the circumstances of the day. And I appreciate that. It's really cool to do. So another aspect of your creative genius that you can do is do a good amount of research, but I would limit your research to about 5 to 10 minutes, because you only need really nuggets of research to expound upon your point in a story. Sometimes you're trying to get to the crux of something. I've done this before too, where I'll spend an hour of solid research, like trying to find the information that I'm looking for to really make something pop, or to make really a good solid assertion for my characters, or make a theory really bright, or really highlight that in that scene. But then when I read back through it, like, all that research amounted to about a paragraph or less. And then you go back and wonder, was it really worth it? So if you're only going to do about a few lines or a paragraph of text based on the research that you're doing, cut it down to about 10 to 15 minutes. That's just reality for me. It may work for you that way. Sometimes you might, some people do less. Some people do like 5 minutes. Some people do half an hour. But I would knock down the amount of time you research, because that cuts into your writing. So focus on, if you are going to research something super specific and something you want the direct answer to. And if you can't find the direct answer because there's differing studies, or there's different theories or different tangents the theory goes on, then take the information that you're looking to utilize the theory for, and then expound upon it later. This is something you could do. Or you can use that as a segue into dialogue and stuff, and revelations and stuff later on in your story. Poetry. I really have put the nose to the grindstone on some poetry. I knocked out 3 poems yesterday, and it was really gratifying. Like sometimes I get in a mode where I write like 20 poems, 30 poems, and I'm like, it's not enough. Like I'm just on it. But then I'll go weeks without really doing anything with poetry. What really led me to really dive into poetry this go around was reading some poetry from the Twitterverse. So I have a good friend on Twitter. Not really a friend, I haven't met her, but her name's Lena, and she's got a new book out, and it deals with the LGBTQ community. For me, I'm not really, I could, doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really, I don't really care either way. But I did find some of the content of her poetry really interesting. So people have this kind of offstandish type of attitude towards that being in popular stories and integrated in fiction and integrated in TV shows and movies, and they're like, oh, there's too much of it. Well, honestly, I don't fucking think so. I think it's always been an undercurrent in our society that nobody wants to mention, nobody wants to be like openly okay with, and creative artists are finally making it happen. They're finally saying, you know what? Fuck it. Like, we're going to put it in here. And does it ruin the show for some people? Maybe. But for other people, it's vindication of, hey, like, it truly does exist in a platform that's really high up there, a platform that's, big and huge. So when you have, for instance, when you have Thor Love and Thunder coming out, and you have Valkyrie as the queen or king of Asgard, or the Asgardians. It's been slated that she's gonna be the first, openly LGBTQ leader in that universe. I see it. I get it. I could say that'd be badass. Valkyrie is an awesome, powerful female lead, and if she has a queen, so fucking what? It's cool. Then you have Natalie Portman going to be a female Thor type character because she's worthy or whatever have you, or however she gets her powers. I don't care. I think it's badass. I think they're going in a direction that allows creativity, and there's different what if comics that are just like that, or there are natural comic story arcs that have that, where it's a gender swap. They actually have a female Deadpool. They have a female Captain America. They have, Captain Marvel's male and female. So you have that naturally in comics, and for it to be represented on screen only makes sense because it exists in the comic book world. Why wouldn't it exist in the film world if it already exists in the comic book world? Good question, right? So, everybody's doing a really good job of pushing, the content more and more. Now, does it need to be in every damn movie? No. But could it be in more films? Sure. And we're getting films where we're getting characters, vibrant characters that are, effeminate, they're gay, or they're strong female leads that happen to be gay. Like, you're getting more and more of that. Or you're getting you're getting characters that are pansexual. They will do anything with anybody. Like you do see that more and more in film. And, it's, people are like, oh, well, they're robbing the culture, and they're doing so much, and they're trying to poison our kids. No, they're not. Your kid, with every intent and purposes that you have under the sun to make them straight, could be gayer than a $2 bill. And that's just the way it's going to go. I'm sorry. Like, I have a good friend I'm friends with a very strong Christian couple, beautiful daughters. One of them happens to be gay. So fucking what? They've done everything under the sun that they could possibly do to lead this young lady into greatness, into leadership, and everything like that, and she happens to be gay. So what? I mean, there was such a pushback against that. that it was unreal. And, you know, they were talking about all sorts of nonsense. And now it's like, so what? Deal with it. She's on her own, going to school. She's already a great leader, kicks ass in the classroom. What more could you want? I don't care. Honestly, if one of my kids were gay, so what? I'm proud as fuck of them. Gotta do what I gotta do. A little bit of a tangent there, but either way, we're at the point where we're gonna see it more and more. We're gonna see it because it's prevalent. I mean, it doesn't need to be you don't need representation in every film, but I feel like it's gonna be there's gonna be representation in more films, in more literature, in more poetry, things like that. So we live in a beautiful time where that's actually going to be discussed more. For those who are still dead set on killing, homosexuals and, going after trans people, I'm sorry, but that's antiquated mentality. Human beings are human beings. Let them fucking be. Especially in the creative universe, where a huge percentage of the creative community happens to be gay. It's the way it is. Now, when it comes to other, representation, when it comes to the over masculinity of some fiction and things like that, that's okay too. So there's fiction out there. There's even fratture, which it's not my forte, but I get it. I understand that there's kind of a boys' culture, frat type of literature out there, and it's meant for a specific audience. It's not meant for everybody. There's the crude and crassness and over masculinization, and that's what it's there for. Now, for someone to come outside of that community and say, oh my god, it's so horrible. Fuck you. They can see your content and your specific type of literature as garbage too. It's to each their own. For you to go out there and attack that form of literature and attack that form of content, fuck you. It's that person's creative genius, and let them be. There are people that are going to like it. Now, if it's extremely racist content, if it's extremely content that's if it's got a lot of rape in it, if it's got a lot of... Now, we have stories that do have a lot of rape and things in it, and that's Game of Thrones. It's in the stories, it's in the storylines. It's real. That's why you see it more and more in films. Now, I'm not saying that don't have that in your content. I'm not saying that at all, because sometimes that's the topic of the entire damn book. Where it's rape or mind control or... not mind control, but you got like Stockholm Syndrome, or you've got Lima Syndrome, whatever is being discussed in the story, sometimes that's the way the hell it is. That's the entire premise of the story. So if you're not okay with it, then don't fucking read the book and don't fucking click on the fucking film or whatever it is you're going to do to watch it. Sometimes that is the content. And people were getting mad at the story of Alexander, which was originally done well by Valerio Massimo Manfredi, but the film, people were getting mad at the film. Oh, he's too gay. Like, the motherfucker was gay. It's documented. The motherfucker had a boyfriend. It was documented. Like, these people aren't just like throwing it at you because it's untrue. It's fucking true. Now, was there a few too many scenes? You could have done it with one goddamn scene. But for it to be part of but it was part of the life. It was part of the story. So fucking deal with it. You watch Spartacus and have no problem watching that show because there's 90% of murder and death, and then there's like 10% of gay scenes. That existed. That fucking happened. It's not like you can just shy away from it because it didn't happen. It did happen. There is what I think is cool, and I think some people are gravitating more towards, is there is VidAngel. And I really hope that they're allowed to do what they do, because you should be able to cut the nonsense scenes out. Like, if you don't want to see that, or you don't want your kids exposed to that, does it affect the story a little bit? It may. But you should be able to discern the kind of content you want to view in a story. And VidAngel offers that. They allow you to modify the film enough to cut scenes out that you don't want to see, or you can change the language thing so it bleeps out or it says something else over the cuss words or whatever have you. VidAngel does that, and they've been sued up the wazoo, and they've had plenty of film and TV shows cut from their content. But I think it's an avenue for people to get what they want out of a story and still have that be able to engage in the dialogue with everybody else regarding that. But that's where we're at in our society at the moment. My last little bit is, hey, keep forging your creative avenue. Keep going after sometimes the good stories. Sometimes, reading and seeing politics and just watching the news is dreary and dreadful. Sometimes there are good stories. Dig into it. Enjoy. And please, please, please follow me on YouTube. I want you to like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter, like at DWelch, or at DWelch9627 on Twitter, and find me on Instagram, david.m.welch1 on Instagram. And I love you all. Thank you for tuning into Creatacast with your host, David Welch.